my name is Helen. I'm a one-to-one at Camp Yakety Yak, and here are some tips on how to be a great one-to-one and support your helper. As a one-to-one, it's really getting to know your campers personally. When you know your campers personally, you know what incentives they like. You know what you can do to really pump them up and get them ready for camp. So just really taking the time and like sitting aside and just talking to them. It makes a difference. It makes your life easier. It's just knowing what your camper likes and just bonding with them. And that's important. If you want them to follow what you have to say, you have to be a role model and you have to be close enough to them for them to build that trust. Okay, so from assembly to our first 2 classes and then lunch, and then after lunch we have recess, and then we go to our last 2 classes, and then we end the day with another assembly. So bring our flag, we bring the name board, the board with all the names, and when we bring all that stuff up to the upper lot, the car with the tables come out. Usually I stand in front of the table. I assign a team assistant with my color team tape and a permanent marker, because anything that comes from the camper needs to be labeled with our team color and their name. So when the parents come, I greet them. They sign in, and then I say hi to the kids, and we talk about how we're in this team. Like, we're in green team, so we're gonna stay with green team. And we take their lunch bags and label all of that with the tape. And then I take the child behind the table and have an assistant put on their shirt and their tag. I have the assistant kind of keep them occupied while we wait for everybody to come. So after about 4 or 5 campers, depending on how many kids you have, you can take them, you can have one assistant go down first and then lead them down to the gym. And then while they play games and we wait for the last couple of kids. But remember that the first one, with the first group of kids, you also want to have them bring the lunchbox bin and everything down, or else you're left stuck with all of that. So team time in the morning, sometimes the director, Angela, will give us questions or give us a task, such as come up with a team name or and decorate your team poster. For my one-to-one, I work with him, and he's fairly high functioning. So in the morning meeting, what I do is we come up with something we call the contract, because my camper can read. And so what I do is I write down what our goal is for the day. So it'd be like, today E is going to attend assembly, go to chit chat for 5 minutes, and then go to assembly afternoon for 2 minutes. I start with small things, and then as I see him improving, the contract changes to something longer. Like, it'd be 5-minute assembly, 5-minute focus, or attend all classes. And my camper and I both sign this contract, and it helps him to remember this is what his goal is for the day, and this is what I need to remember that he's going to do. Because we do remind each other, and it does come back a lot. So if your camper is high functioning, it's definitely worth doing. So the first and then chart is basically, there's 3 boxes, and then it says first let's say first calm down, then finish project, and then recess, or something like that. There's also some basic ones. Well, I took notes of what we're doing in class today. So remember, we always go to team meeting and assembly.
But today we are what, buddies?
When we go to buddies. Oh, because you see B. This says chit chat, and at chit chat, we're making bubble gum brain books. I wonder if we're gonna turn your brain into a bubble gum.
No.
No. The first and next chart is good because it provides the kid a routine and what to do next. A lot of the campers at Camp Yakety Yak don't know what happens next, and because they don't know what's happening, it can escalate their behavior. So the more routine, the more information we can provide them, then the better their routine. It's just for them to understand this is what happens, then this happens. It's first this, then this. And it just kind of helps calm them down to know what happens next. Because kids like routine and they just like to know the predictable pattern. I don't know if I really use a lot of incentives. I like to let my camper decide on what his incentive would be. An incentive that we had previously was doing a 10-minute playground with a friend. I always try to attach a friend with them because camp is what you do, you make friends. The star chart is what helps him remember how to behave at camp, what is expected of him. So when I do a star chart, I shade in the star and then I write down how he earned that star. And it's just to remind him that these are the expectations we follow and that these are the rules that we want to see at camp. I gave you a star because you were sitting and waiting. Sit calmly.
Okay, you can copy us if you want.
You're sitting calmly. Oh. We use the timer for almost everything too. So when he earns all of his stars, and we write down the star chart, I need all the stars for iPad time. And it's only a maximum of 10 minutes. So he picks up the iPad, we sit down. I use my phone as a timer, and then we, as the time goes down, kind of prep him. You have 7 minutes left, you have 4 minutes left, 2 more minutes, 30 seconds. And if they're really receptive to what you're saying and they're really responding, I would tell them that, you're really responding to what I'm saying and I'm really excited that you're gonna go to assembly, so I'm gonna add an extra minute for you. So this year, Camp Yakety Yak is doing zones. So you are in the blue zone where you're kind of bored, tired. You're in the green zone, which you're happy and calm. And then you're in the yellow zone, which is excited. And in the red zone is when you're mad, angry, and upset. And so if a child, just in general, escalates to red zone, which is the angry, then we really pull them out of the situation and just in a calm down time. And my words are always, if you're angry, if you're in the red zone, you do your thing. And when you're back in feeling calm, then I can talk to you. So I always just let them express what they need to express and then have them come back. And I let them tell me when they're ready. So if they want me to step away, I'll step away, and I always tell them that ahead of time. When you're back in the green zone, you may come and tug me and we can do what we need to do or what you wanted to do. I generally take my time with them and I'll talk calmly and slowly. Even if they're yelling at me, I'm just talking to them calmly and slowly. And if it continues to escalate, I would send an assistant, or if you have a walkie-talkie, you can call a red shirt for backup and they will help you to de-escalate the problem. And they'll stay with you until the child is back into their calm zone. Okay, so the lunch routine is we try to arrive at lunch at lunchtime. So you drop the kids off. I always made sure the assistants made sure everyone had their lunch boxes, and we eat lunch, blue shirts. It's the same time as our camper. And so I always check in with a red shirt or somebody in general, just say, hey, my campers are here, I'm going to lunch, just to let them know. I have lunch with my teammates or my team leaders that I worked with in week 1, and we just really exchanged a lot of ideas, tips, talk about how our day is going and if someone was having a challenging time. Really good to eat lunch with someone because sometimes you have to vent, and you do. And to be able to have someone there to listen will help you feel much more, I guess, de-escalated, so you're not all pumped up. My day at camp form, it needs to be filled. With older kids, they were able to fill out most of it on their own. Some need help with writing, some need help with just elaborating more or spelling. But most of the older kids could do it on their own. So the backside just talks about how the camper did. Were they pretty independent? Did they need any assistance? What is something specific that the camper did that was awesome? And I always wrote little fun things about each camper and what I remembered, because it's special and the parents like to read that, just to hear a specific thing that their kid did, and it just makes those papers more personable and not just a form for them to scan and throw away.
Emery, you know what was awesome today? When we were in chit chat and you really didn't want to fold the paper, but you tried anyway, and then you did it, and you finished making your book. That was a good job.
What do you have to say for yourself?
I'm awesome.
Team leaders should all take breaks at 2 o'clock. And team leaders are responsible for making sure everyone takes a break. We forget that all the time. And then at the end of the day, after the assembly, it's your job to make sure all of the shirts and the tags are back in the lunch bin. Keep the bin organized, please.
Yeah, so great today. Awesome.
When I talk to parents, I shower them with positive things, because I believe sometimes it's really hard for parents to drop kids off, and that having that separation can be hard. So if I talk to them really positively about how their children are, then I hope they know that it is a safe place for the kids to go and that they're always having fun.
Yeah. Oh, she's fine. She just really wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, so great today. Awesome.
If there's anything if they ask me anything regarding camp or anything about behaviors, then they go to a red shirt. And there's always red shirts up at the parking lot. Awesome. So I would always direct them there if they had anything that wasn't day-to-day task. Red shirts are super important. I've appreciated everything they've done for me. Sometimes I didn't need them as much as I possibly could have used. They're always there to give tips, suggestions. If you need a social story, they can crack one out right there. And if you needed help in general, they're always there with answers. And so doesn't hurt to ask, and always check in. Yak backs, kids love yak backs. So yak backs are given out when you see the kids follow the expectations. So if they're safe, you give them a yak back. If they are kind, you give them a yak back. And if they're trying their best, you give them a yak back. And every time I give them a yak back, I'd always explain why. Sometimes when E has such a good day that I won't do the stars as much, or if he's earning his stars really fast, then I'll start showering him with yak backs, or I try to alternate. And I always tie it back to camp expectations. Dude, you were walking with your safe feet. That's being safe at camp. Here's a yak back. Or you helped him when he fell on the scooter. That's being kind at camp. So always tying it with the expectations so the kids know why they're earning it. One of the things you really learn is being able to think on your feet quickly, because things can escalate, things can change, and you just have to be able to make a decision sometimes right then and there. Take the time to bond with your kids, even though you're always so busy and you're so worried about being from one place to the next, but you can take that time to even talk to one kid at a day. Even if you do one, set yourself a goal for 2. Your kids really get more excited, and they're not thinking you're so distant and you're just a leader. I really took the time to bond with my kids because that's just my philosophy. Yeah.